customer development and what that really means. It's all about growth. And I even coined a term, it's smart growth. It's very easy as soon as the news is out there that you raise money, everybody wants it. And money is a little bit like oxygen. It's a small room, it's closed, and everybody wants the air. So you have to be smart about how you spend it, and you have to be very smart about how you actually think about growth. Expansion growth, especially after you've established a product and after you've established what you want to do and how you want to grow is a big deal. And all I can share with you all the scars that I've lived before and give you a little bit of a sense of what it meant to me, and again, the kind of buckets that these things fall into. So the buckets that they fall into for me are people, and what happens with people when you start growing. And I think all these things have to do with even very early stage as well as expansion stage or even mature stage, but picking the right people. And I'll spend a little bit of time about each of these topics. Geography. Notwithstanding that internet is so sophisticated in terms of the customer reach, the earlier discussion that you had, geography still plays a role in terms of where you want to be and what that means to you. Product, which is very interesting from a perspective of what happens in your product development cycle and how you want to think about that. I'll call it loosely marketing, but really we have a term, we'll call it relationship marketing, and what that means to you, what it means to you from a customer development perspective. And last but not least, one thing that we all at the Philly startup community think very highly of, we call it NPS, and for those who are familiar with that, it's Net Promoter Score. It's how we grade ourselves, how we can align a company to be graded by customers, and what that really means in a broader community. Huge deal, and if you're not a follower, you should become one, and what each of these topics is. So these are the 5 things that I think are most interesting from a perspective of how one should consider growth and strategic customer development. So let's spend a little bit of time on all of them. I'll start with geography only because it's something that everybody's familiar with, and I have one soundbite for geography. If your average selling price is less than $10,000 a month, and I'm a huge proponent of recurring revenue, so if you can do any business and it's a recurring revenue business, think like that, it's a big deal. If you don't know what we're talking about, your cable company is a recurring revenue company, so is your hosting company is a recurring revenue company. Every service, software as a service company is a recurring revenue company. You want them to pay you money every month, so that's a big deal. But in terms of geography and how you think about this thing, if your recurring revenue is less than $10,000 per customer, it's very difficult to have an intimate relationship with them over a long distance. What that practically means, having a sales force in California, if each customer is paying you less than 10 grand a month, this is not going to work. Okay? It's just a very simple, practical metric that you can think about and consider. Okay, so as soon as the customers can afford paying you 10 grand a month for something you're giving them, then you can have a sales force out there. Otherwise, please don't do it. Expand in the local geography, dominate the local geography, then go somewhere else. And this area between here, New York, and DC, and so on is about 1/6 of the U.S. in terms of the market share, which means it's 1/8 of the world. So you got plenty of stuff to sell right here, not that far away from here, within a car drive. Big deal. Okay. So that's kind of a little bit of thoughts on the geography and how to think about that. The next part is people, and especially in the area of starting something new, you'll develop a core group of people who may be great when things are impossible or super difficult. And the greatest example I like to always fall back on is, if any of you have seen the original interviews of Steve Jobs when he talks about developing Apple, it took 5 people to develop everything from hardware to software for every element of that product. Like 5 people. So you don't need a ton, you don't need an army, you just need those 5 people to drive real value. But interestingly, after you grow your business, different kinds of people have to come in to actually help you scale. And it's very hard for founders and for technical people who are involved in business to recognize that, but seek outside help to figure that out. And help yourself either move on from those people who helped you early because they just can't grow with you. But very careful and very smart about how you look at people. That's your greatest talent. Other than the original idea you had in the commercialization kind of prowess that you've developed, please think about people and do this every year. Right? Grade yourself on people. If you won't do that and won't get that in your muscle, it'll be very difficult for you to operate a successful scalable business. So that's kind of the second thing is people. Third, and very probably critically important one is product. Today, if you want to raise serious money, it'll be very difficult for you to go and ask somebody for that if you don't have a variable business model. I talked about variable recurring model from the perspective of getting money in. Right? Recurring is huge. Variable cost model is huge as well. If you're a software developer and if you're not using the cloud, it's going to be very hard for you to raise money. It's real simple, right? Because everybody looks at it and say, okay, why are you doing infrastructure for this? We know this business very well because that's our business with XTeam. But it's a very simple thing that a VC can ask you and say, okay, well, where are you? And how does that work? And what's going to happen when you get to transition from this stage of growth to the next stage of growth? How are you thinking about all the things that enterprise folks like to think about? Whether it's disaster recovery or any of the other disciplines, compliance and all those other things. So think about that. Think about how you look at the product roadmap on a variable basis. I won't ever pretend to understand all the bright ideas that are in the room. But every person that typically looks at a deal looks at it from a financial perspective, so variable cost basis is a huge deal. And again, variable cost basis is just a complement, a simple complement to your recurring revenue. Forms of simple P&L. So just consider all those things, and of course, product roadmaps require one thing, and it's violent focus. And if you can achieve focus with variable cost basis and a recurring revenue model, out of 100 people, 100 investments will be made. So it's a very easy thing to kind of consider and drive. Okay. Next item I have on my list is marketing. And there's lots of terms for this, but the new buzzword in marketing is something called relationship marketing or content marketing. For those people who are old enough like me back in the day to remember a local company who was an absolute marketing machine called Franklin Mint. You'll remember Franklin Mint, because they knew when you bought one item, everything else that you would do simply from one purchase you would make today. Amazon commercialized all that stuff because we all know what happens when you go into an Amazon and shop or something. But think about a relationship and an interaction with a customer as just the beginning of a journey. Anytime anybody expresses an interest in you, anytime downloads something from you, what's going to be the next step? Huge deal. Have a plan for that and drive that. I'll call it searchability index, right? How will you be discoverable, right? And what does that all mean? Well, lots of sophisticated tools have come out to help you with that, take advantage of them. But this idea of relationship marketing couldn't be stressed enough in terms of how you want to drive your business and how you want to scale your business. So the earlier you think about what's to do and how do you derive value from every customer interaction, temporally developed over a long time, is, I think, what's going to drive most value for you. Okay? And again, with each specific business, different cadences come in. Some people buy over a quarter, some people buy over a year, some people buy every minute. So it doesn't matter what the cadence of purchase is, but it definitely matters what's the cadence of your plan for that customer from a marketing perspective. Huge deal. Okay, so just consider that, look at all the tools that are out there, have a strategy for that, and have the strategy of continuous, sustained relationship with the customer. Okay. Last but not least, I hugely recommend developing a profile on what a customer persona is. There's a lot of new talk in marketing about the buyer persona. As companies become much more sophisticated, it's really the company persona that drives real value. What is the kind of company that's going to buy you, and what are all the nuances that go on in developing its relationship with you? That's what becomes interesting. I only mentioned Franklin Mint because they had this to a science, a decade and a half, 2 decades ago, and they knew what was going to happen. On a household level, your jobs, my job, and our business is always to develop what is the persona of a company. How do I develop that as a broader context to drive value out of that? And if you have all those elements put together, I think you'll stand a wonderful, successful chance